37 laps. It's an extra 10 on yesterday's, and these starting positions reflect the finishing positions of the weekend's opening race. But Neil, everybody in pit lane are talking about tyres.
Big issue here at the moment. How you manage your tyres for races 2 and 3, the 37 lappers, that's the question. The smart money is that you're probably likely now to start this race 2 on the tyres you finished on yesterday, and then run the set that you started on that did the short stint at the beginning of yesterday for the long run, and that will give you at least one pretty clean set for race number 3. That doesn't always work though. Sometimes people just decide that they might want to strategically make more of this second race, but I can get no one to confirm it because nobody ever wants to talk tyre strategy to you, but that's, I think, what will likely be the case for this race. There's Jason Bargwanna, incidentally starting out of position 22. He finished 15th in yesterday's race 1, but he was given the equivalent of a drive-through penalty for his role in the incident with both the DJR cars, Stephen Johnson and Will Davison, who start way up the back there. Greg?
Ambient temperature 24 degrees on track. It's 26. The 17 car you mentioned, Neil, Stephen Johnson, will start from pit exit. He broke a half shaft on the driver's side on the siding lap. They're not sure if it's a knock-on from yesterday's accident. The DJR team have repaired it. Johnson to start from the lane.
And there he is. Several guys in the field were talking about, they thought it was a very quick exchange on the lights. This part here at the start yesterday, and Stephen Richards was one of those. He felt he got caught out a little bit, and Greg Murphy as well, by the fast change. We'll see how they get away today. We'll keep a closer eye on that. 37 laps, same rules apply. There's a compulsory pit stop for tyres. Ready to go for the second race here in Bahrain. Bright on the right of your screen in the Cat Ford. Winterbottom pops out of the line, trying to get the advantage early, and Rick Kelly defends. Tander's got the inside run down into turn 1. Is he level with Bright? He looks to be. Tander will lead them in. Bright's got the outside line. It's Garth Tander, and Courtney's gone around.
This will cause a big mess down here. And Courtney's been hit. Steve Owens squeezed up on the outside there with one of the Team BOC cars. It was one of the Toll HSV cars that touched the back of Courtney. We had a clean run yesterday, not the case today. Ingles made some ground. Bright is the leader.
Massive gain too from Mark Winterbottom in the Ford Performance Racing Falcon, and James Courtney will be livid. He had a wonderful day yesterday.
It's Rick Kelly that was hit, and he's got a problem with the steering. I can hear him on the radio.
Well, there has been talk, when you talk championship, that Rick Kelly hasn't had any adversity this year. This could be it. This is a magic moment for Lowndes to pounce.
Lee, important factor to think of. It may not have been the cause of this accident at one, but with the extra 10 laps in today's race, they are carrying a pretty decent belly of fuel on those cars. 70 kgs. I talked to Campbell Little, so that run in there and the brakes early on, a little more weight.
Look at Scaife and Wilson fighting over the same piece of territory. Scaife will win this fight. Wilson gives him racing room. Max Wilson's made progress this weekend. 25th, 22nd to 16th. And now he and Scaife go door to door, and is it McConville on the other side? Good racing.
Yeah, but there's not room for 3 of them down the other end, so they'll need to sort this out. I think it's Murphy on the right. Someone else is buying in too. It's Murphy. Here comes a Jack Daniels car to actually scoop up the lot of them.
That was a very, very savvy move from Paul Dumbrell. Deep into the brakes. Murph gets the run across and slams into Wilson, and Scaife gets the inside passage. He's on the wrong side though for turn 4. He's out wide into 4. Look how jam-packed it is. That was some good hustling there. And Paul Dumbrell.
They're going to they're going to bring Rick in and sort the problem with car number 15. It's right front steering. I think that's the problem. They're going to put him in the garage, fix it, and then send him back out. So they'll just carefully risk manage that one. Here he is. Oh, he's actually got a lot of damage, and Greg's on the spot.
You should see the driver's side. You'll be able to get a shot there, the right rear. Look at the damage to Rick Kelly's car, but ultra calm on the radio, I have to say, despite this sort of adverse scenario and the impact it may have on his championship. He knows that what they're going to try and do here is just repair the car, get him back out, salvage any points possible in race 2.
Spot on, Greg. Championship implications, big style, because Lowndes runs 3rd in this race. The order is Tander, Bright, Lowndes. Zinger replay. And James Courtney's car is centre of your screen. It's the blue and yellow car. Kelly's on the inside.
Yeah, Rick Rick's actually saying that he's got a problem with the front right steering, but the contact was made on the left side. Obviously, it's hard to pick when he's got that right rear tyre drama as well. Look at all this nonsense.
Well, you're on board with Greg Murphy, and he was able to get through there reasonably unscathed, but lost several positions as everybody was diving for clear space.
You could spat the carcass of the tyre off here as well.
Big handful for Rick Kelly to hold on.
25 even for Garth Tander. Trouble here between Jason Bargwanna and Andrew Jones, and Marcus Marshall, who's celebrating a birthday today, is in the middle of that one. I think that's down at turn 6.
What have we got here? Oh!
And Scaife gets together with Paul Dumbrell at turn 1, and Dumbrell turned around in the middle of it all. Jason Bright's done a very fast split to the second sector. Here's more craziness. This time Will Davison the victim.
Exactly the same point at which he got done yesterday. And 39, Jack Perkins nudges right into the nose of Will Davison's car.
Greg Murphy just on the radio suggesting that the driving standard in various areas is a little bit average.
And there is the stranded Sirame entry of Jack Perkins. Done for race 2. Marshall's going again. The order is Tander, Bright, Lowndes, Winterbottom. Todd Kelly is 5th. Stephen Richards 6th. McConville is up to 7th. Whincup, Scaife and Murphy. That's the top 10 at the moment. And it's been a frantic opening 3 laps.
It's all good news for Garth Tander. 1.2 second margin. Last lap for him was a 25 even. Bright mirrored that time, but then Lowndes, who's now moved to 3rd, this will really help his point scenario. He's about 7/10 of a second slower on that lap, Greg.
Well, just to add to that, Neil, Campbell Little has been on the radio, a bit of a conscience, a reminder for Craig Lowndes. We've just got to settle down, he says, because there's a fair bit going on in this race, a bit of carnage. If we can get a good result here, that could get them right back in the game.
Well, Rick Kelly's down in 31st on the board at the moment. He's got 104 points against his name. Craig Lowndes got 180 points against his name if he stays in that position. So it just goes to show how quickly the numbers can swing, which we've talked about. And that's why drivers, going into this race, there's 535 points available and a 90-point margin between Rick and Craig Lowndes. 5 races to go in this championship. So while it's still mathematically possible, you should never drop your head.
And it will mirror last year in that it will go down to the final round at Phillip Island. At the front of the field, Garth Tander raced here at the beginning of the year with Sir Steve Redgrave in a Pro-Am event. Of course, the rowing legend raced in the HSV Club Sport race and won, incidentally. Todd Kelly, who we see on screen in car 22, also was in that celebrity race. The Formula 1 event was a support category. He raced with a local soccer identity. And I asked him who it was. He said, "I'm sorry, I can't remember his name." But he enjoyed the experience anyway. And he is in a fierce battle here. Lowndes, Winterbottom and Kelly.
It's good recovery from Mark Winterbottom. You look at his weekend. 3rd in the first practice, looked encouraging, but then qualifying 15th. Didn't make the shootout, therefore. And then climbed back yesterday to 8th. So with all the craziness in the opening laps of this one, he now finds himself with what appears to be a pretty quick car and 4th. And Coolant dropping out of the front of the Will Davison car and Marcus Marshall in there as well.
Remember yesterday I said Dick Johnson wouldn't see the humorous side of what occurred. I just spoke to Dick a few moments ago and he just shook his head and he said, "What do we have to do?" He said, "We're always in the wrong place at the wrong time." And particularly the driver of car 18, Will Davison, who has shown real improvement and great speed over the last few events, but he's just been dudded and he was at the wrong place, the wrong time again.
And Lee, just to I guess, embellish your comments or to talk a bit more about it, you don't often see Will Davison pretty fired up. You don't seem happy about this at all. What happened?
I may just racing with a bunch of monkeys, to be honest with you. I mean, typical story, what I've been saying the last 2 rounds, I've been taken out again, I mean, I got an awesome start. I probably come through 10, 11, 12 cars, hadn't made contact with one person, and then, there was a bit of a concertina effect into turn 4 hairpin, and I was pretty cautious not to run up someone's backside, and then someone's just, as normal, just drilled me straight up from behind, and I was spun around in the middle of the track, and unfortunately for Jack, I think he had nowhere to go. I was stopped in the middle of the track, and he's drilled me head on, so No, you got to laugh at this, don't you? It's pretty funny.
As you can tell, boys, not real happy. And in the garage right next door to us, the HSV dealer team, they have fired up Rick Kelly's car. He is leaving the lane.
And we're also going to see Jason Bright and Todd Kelly in this lap. And there is Rick departing the lane, as Greg said. So he's right down the bottom of the order, but he will see points against his name for being a finisher.
So positions are Tander Bright, Winterbottom, as you saw, got ahead of Lowndes. We're on board with Craig right now. Then Todd Kelly, then Stephen Richards. McConville's having a good run in 7th. Whincup, Scaife and Murphy. Then it's Jason Richards on the improve in this second race, as Kelly dives for the lane because the compulsory window is open. You're looking at Jack Perkins.
Drive-through penalty for Mark Scaife, car number 2, for his role in the incident down at turn 1.
Several drivers diving for the lane as Jack Perkins instructs the marshals where to point the fire extinguisher. Here they are, they're all in the lane. Todd Kelly is in there. One of the Jack Daniels Commodores, that is Stephen Richards, is in the lane, and Jamie Whincup. Here's the race leader, second place Bright. Saying good work, good stop. Wilson's done. A lot of the teams talking about this tricky concrete surface right here that you're looking at now. Difficult to stop on, difficult to exit on. Darren.
Lee, great stop for Jason Bright, that team, and no hesitation with traffic as he had to exit his pit box here. And remember yesterday, some of the drivers that stopped on the second lap as soon as that window opened got tied up in traffic. We'll see how Tander fares when he joins in here in pit lane.
I would need to confirm it, but it looked like a stall from Todd Kelly as he endeavoured to lead pit lane. Now, he did not lose a spot to, I think it was the Jack Daniels Commodore of Stephen Richards, but boy, Richards made some ground here in the lane. They're standing by also, yep, for Craig Lowndes. Craig Lowndes due in this time around.
Stalling is still a topic of conversation, and I just spoke with Rob Crawford, team manager of the Toll HSV dealer team, and he said, simple, not impressed. I've spoken to both my drivers. We do not need them to stall exiting. But it goes a little bit deeper than that because it's tricky, mate, isn't it? It's not as easy as it seems.
No, and the temptation for the driver is always to try and hustle and hurry, and when you do that you can have a real problem, because if you use much more than about 10% throttle, the cars cough when they land and you can literally stop them on the spot. Of course, the counter argument from the team standpoint is you do it all the time. There's something that you need to concentrate on. Obviously, when you're in this pressured situation like we're looking at, Winterbottom had to prop then, and he's actually propped on a couple of occasions. One for the incoming car, and secondly for Mark Scaife, who was doing the drive-through.
And that will allow Lowndes to get out in front of him, does it? No, it doesn't. So Whincup holds position. Ingles in the background there as well. Here they go.
There with Mark Winterbottom in that pit lane. He did get walked twice, and that's exactly what happened yesterday with the Garth Tander pit stop. So some of the drivers very lucky in joining back into this traffic as they pull down into their boxes, but Winterbottom really caught out that time.
Darryl, absolutely spot on. There is some chaos happening in this pit lane here at the moment. Russell Ingall just moments ago almost contact with Jason Richards as he left the lane, and Craig Lowndes, can you believe it, a stall for the 888 Falcon. He may have been able to sneak in front of Scaife, who was trundling through the lane here at the time, had it not been for that.
All eyes on Tander. Let's see. He needs to be clean. He needs to be fast. Bright has already been serviced, so we're going to watch Garth Tander and where he comes back out on this circuit in relation to the Cat Ford of Jason Bright.
I like the idea, though, of taking him out of the cycle with everybody else and giving him a lot more clear air, so less likely to be tripping over other cars. You know, he's in command of the situation, good car speed. And drives it away this time.
Make sure of it. Now, where is Bright in relation to Tander on exit? If we look up this long 1.1 kilometre straight, here comes Bright. This will be close. Tander should be okay, though. Exits the lane, not a worry. Bright is up to full operating temperature. Does he get the outside run?
He's got cold tyres, of course, on the rear of the 16 car, so you'll have to manage that pretty carefully for the next half a lap or so. But he does have track position.
If you missed yesterday's opening race of the weekend, it was brilliant between these two. Really fast lap times, really good, clean, consistent racing, and they just went blow for blow at the top end of the field. Todd Kelly, does he stall? Certainly does.
Yeah. Probably didn't cost him too much there, but he was a bit lucky to get away with it. And Russell's tagged Jason Richards. He'll be penalised for that. And Dean Cando and Russell Ingall getting together at turn 2. And do they sort of salvage it? Yes, they do.
Canto did that yesterday. That was almost a mirror image of the one lap that he turned yesterday. They got the car all up in the air. Meanwhile, you're looking at the two guys at the front of the field. Steve Johnson leads the race, but he's yet to pit. So too Brad Jones. It's Tander and Bright all over again. Toll HSV dealer team versus Ford Performance Racing. We'll see how it shakes out when we come back. It all started so promising for James Courtney, 5th in yesterday's opening race and taken out at turn 1 in the second. He continues in the Geltman Ford, but very, very frustrated. And he returns to the Bahrain International Circuit. We welcome you back. While we were away in the break, Zinger replay, Brad Jones came in for his compulsory stop and got it out of the way. There was just a handful of drivers yet to complete their CPS. Stephen Johnson was another, and so too Mark Scaife. Yeah, you saw Scaife come in earlier, but that was to complete his drive-through penalty for tagging Paul Dumbrell in turn 1. This was his compulsory stop for tyres, serviced and got away nice and cleanly. And as he exited, Russell Ingall, the defending champion in the Caltex Ford, came through to serve his drive-through penalty for just nudging Jason Richards right there, in fact, on exit of pit lane. And so that's been costly for both Scaife and for Ingall. We get back to things, though, and it's Tander, Bright, Winterbottom, and Craig Lowndes has lost a position to Todd Kelly. So Kelly's up into 4th, then Whincup, Richards, McConville and Murphy. Both Super Cheap Auto Commodores are in the top 10. We ride with Lowndes.
Craig was just talking on the radio a moment ago about really trying to nurse the rear tyres, and that'll be the order of the day. When I look at the lap times now, just 13 laps recorded into the race, and they're already in 26s and 27s. So they're running very, very slow by comparison to their qualifying and shootout times. And that'll continue to deteriorate. Long races 2 and 3. Oh, what have we got going on there? It's just maybe bottoming out the splitter on the front right-hand corner.
Campbell Little just gave him a time interval, just updating Craig Lowndes on where his teammate Jamie Whincup is behind him. He said you've got about a 5-second buffer over Jamie. So is Lowndes running into some sort of trouble? Because he's lost an enormous amount of ground to Kelly. Look, there's the gap right there. He was running with these guys not too long ago. Greg.
Quick update on Rick Kelly for you, Lee. He dropped 4 laps during that period to change the right front steering arm of car 15, and have a look at the extent of the damage. You can see there that it's sheared right through. He's in position 28 at the moment, still circulating. He's been on the radio and talking to the Toll HSV dealer team here. They're still not completely happy with the steering on this car. So the attitude from Rick Kelly at the moment is let's circulate. He says, I don't want to fence this thing. They've just got to finish in race 2 and keep those points coming in.
25.5 and 25.9 for Tander and Bright. And then Winterbottom's 26.1, Kelly 26.2, Lowndes 26.4, just to underline that point you made before, Lee.
This is Greg Murphy chasing his super cheap teammate Cam McConville. These guys are positioned 9 and 10 respectively. I have to say, it's refreshing to see these boys back in the top 10. They've had a troublesome season, frustrating for both of them at various times. But here on this Bahrain International Circuit, race 2, both in the top 10. It's an incredible complex. They've in fact got 6 different track combinations, and as Neil mentioned in detail at the top of the show, of course we're not running on the full Grand Prix circuit. This is an abbreviated one at just under 4 kilometres. 8.25 million man hours to construct this place, and they had 300 staff at peak time.
Both Tander and Bright doing 25.9s on that lap. Craig's asking a lot about who's behind him at the moment, so clearly must feel a little vulnerable. So Greg just having a look down the inside of his teammate and sneaks through easily. And Campbell's just reminded Craig the only car behind him is his teammate. and he says that Jamie's faster, but you're just going to have to concentrate. And Craig's response was it's just got no rear grip at all. The front's perfect, but doesn't have any rear grip, so he must be really battling at the moment with that car sliding.
Just the one car in the field yet to complete its compulsory pit stop, and that is newcomer Kiwi driver, the teenager Chris Pither, who is racing in the 021 Kiwi Commodore, for which it reminds us to give a shout out again to Paul Radicic, and hope you're on the mend, mate, and feeling a lot better after that big shunt at Mount Panorama Bathurst. Here's your race leader, Garth Tander. He's doing it nicely to the tune of almost 1.5 seconds over Jason Bright. Spoke to Chris O'Toole, the crew chief at FPR, earlier today, and he said we did make a wholesale change, a pretty major change right at the beginning of the weekend in practice for the Cat Ford. But he said this is one of those weekends where we haven't really had to do much. Just a slight shock adjustment here, a click there, he said, but it's been the perfect weekend. And that was reflected in Bright's win yesterday.
Both these guys, again, as they were yesterday, are just miles above everybody else. And obviously the pack...
And then, look after the tyres, and I reckon we'll stay in touch a little bit at the end. We'll see what happens, mate.
When the pack got scattered down at turn 1, that clearly had an impact on anybody else, probably been in a position to lay a glove on these two, but they're just miles up on everybody else for pace, and they showed that yesterday.
Third and fourth right here, Mark Winterbottom and Todd Kelly. And when you consider Winterbottom started 15th yesterday, to be running third at this early stage in race 2 is a fine effort. We'll see what Todd Kelly has for him, though.
Not much in the speed between those guys at the moment. In this particular sector, Todd's dropped a couple of tenths, but there's still not a lot of actual margin between the two of them. And Jason Bright was just saying that he can't do much about the gap at the moment.
This is Lee Holdsworth coming up on Rick Kelly.
Yeah, Rick's having trouble steering the thing. And that just further underscores what he was talking about earlier on, which is, I just need to wobble around and not fence this thing. I mean, he's a million miles behind. He's 27th. 117 points is what he will record. That is for races 1 and race 2 so far this weekend. And because he's so far behind, there's not much he can do. So he just needs to circulate, nail those points, come home, adjust her up, and then they'll have to do the best they can in race 3, because they'll start so far down, it's unlikely he's going to get a result. So this is going to be a tougher round for Rick Kelly. It brings Craig Lowndes back in the game. Doesn't that set up a tasty prospect for Phillip Island?
At Sandown and of course Bathurst hurt Garth Tander's championship hopes, but one thing this guy is going to do is he's going to end the season on a high note, and as high as he can in this championship. He is storming away from Jason Bright at the moment. 3.5 seconds is his lead margin. He's going to square the ledger here. Bright won the first one, and if Tander keeps this pace up and this consistency, he is well and truly on his way to scoring victory number 7 of the season. It has been a flawless run out front for the Toll HSV dealer team Commodore. Here's Bright, and then a very big gap back to his teammate Mark Winterbottom. Some 9.5 seconds back to Winterbottom here, and then he's shaken off Todd Kelly. So things are pretty calm at the front of the field. Healthy gaps between each of them. Look at that, he's left Todd Kelly behind. That's another 4.5 seconds back to Todd. And then Lowndes is maintaining his 5th spot over his teammate Jamie Whincup.
26.1 for Tander, 26.3 for Bright, 26.4 for Winterbottom, 27 even Todd Kelly, 27.4 Craig Lowndes. That's slow. 26.6 for Whincup, 27.3 for Stephen Richards, 7.1 for Greg Murphy. So 3.6 seconds is the margin first to second. So the odd man out in the group that I just rattled through, apart from the speed that the two leaders are showing, is Craig's clearly battling with those rear tyres at the moment. So he's going to have to really be careful and nurse those. He won't come under too much assault from Jamie. There's a bit of a margin back to Stephen Richards, but you just have to manage it, because when the car's in that condition, Lee, it's really easy to make a mistake. You'll arrive somewhere, lock the rears, find yourself off the road pretty quickly. The upside of the story here, which we detailed in yesterday's coverage, was that when you do go off the road here, you go off on asphalt, so you can actually climb back on without too much drama. There are some gravel traps, but they're a long way off the back of the runoff areas.
Murphy's a man on the move at the moment. Look how much ground he's put on Cam McConville. And this is Stephen Richards he's chasing up ahead. So Murphy maintains his 8th position and is in good shape at the moment. He's getting stronger and faster as this race goes on.
I can pick up in the language of the cars, the body language of the cars. They're just all battling for grip. They've got no sharp brake performance. They haven't got good quick turn performance, and they can't get off the corners. So the lead 2 guys that are running around in mid-26s, Tanner and Bright, that lap are only a 10th apart, are in a bit of a class of their own. Then everybody else is in 7s, and you don't have to go terribly far into the field to see 1 minute 28s.
There's a view down this 1,100 metre long front straight. It's very similar to Darwin, except first turn goes the other direction. Then into this tricky complex. Jason Richards has improved over the course of the weekend. Very frustrated after the opening practice session. Said, I just don't know what we've got. He was 20th.
They're going to bring Rick Kelly in on this lap, so they must have another little issue with the car. They want to make sure that it's safe, and our boys will be on the spot down there, so we'll be right on top of that one. But I think Jason Richards might have enough speed at the moment to put a move here on Cam. He certainly looks pretty aggressive.
Have a look at the rear end of the number 3. There's damage on the tail end of this car.
Yeah, just as you were saying it, race director Tim Schenken was saying exactly the same thing and asking officials to have a look at that as the car goes by the pit lane. It's part of the apron at the bottom of the rear bumper. He's been hit and it fractures the base of it. It's Rick just getting out of the way, and Craig just said on the radio to Campbell, this is not a very exciting race to watch. To which Campbell said, just concentrate please, mate.
Warren Luff, Paul Dumbrell, Paul Morris, Jason Bargwana. You're talking about 15th, 16th, 17th, 18th. And Rick Kelly, of course, several laps down at the back of this particular group.
Watch for debris on pit entry, mate. Watch for debris on pit entry.
It's the voice of Eric Pender. So we'll watch here for Rick Kelly. They've asked him to pit this lap. They must be concerned that the car in its current state wouldn't finish the race, so they'll want to bring it in and rectify the problem, whatever it may be. Massively long pit lane complex. 43 odd seconds to transit it, plus your stationary time. And here's Greg Murphy making a very good exit from the final turn, comes up underneath Stephen Richards and sneaks down for a position, jumping up into 7th.
In an effort to try and give Rick Kelly's car a little bit better balance, they are going to change all 4 tyres for the man who was leading the series coming into this round. Quick points update for you as things currently stand. Craig Lowndes, 173 points earned so far in Bahrain. Rick Kelly, 117. And already the boys here in the Toll HSV dealer team have been prepping some bits and pieces to replace on this car in between races 2 and 3. Rick looks calm behind the wheel still, and away he goes.
So the big picture is it's advantage Craig Lowndes as far as points hauled this weekend, but Rick Kelly still in charge of this championship as we get closer to the final 10 laps of this race. Saw a good drag race there between Greg Murphy and Stephen Richards down the front straight. Murphy still holds position in 7. 2 better electrical Fords coming up behind the lapped Rick Kelly of Lowndes and Whincup. Those positions remain as is.
Seems a bit unusual to put another set of tyres on it unless one was deflating or he had a big flat spot. But this potentially eats some of the tyre bank and options away for race 3. But I'll need to think that one through just to see why they've done it. But they obviously felt that it was something that they needed to manage.
Pat on the back for Dick Johnson Racing, Stephen Johnson, who started from pit lane and runs 13th. That's significant progress in the First Rock Home Loans Ford. And he is right in the middle of Dean Canto and Lee Holdsworth, the 2 Gary Rogers racers, also enjoying a good strong run in the top 15.
Quick inspection of the tyres which came off Rick Kelly's car show no flat spots at all, and the word from the team is purely a precaution, Neil. They just wanted to try and do this because Rick has been talking still about the steering in that car not being perfect. Just a little something to try and help him out toward the end of the race.
You have to feel for James Courtney, who's struggling down in 25th place after being taken out. And on the topic of James Courtney, we want to give a shout out and congratulate Australian go-karter Ben George, who won the 2006 Rotax Max Challenge World Final in Portugal last week. He was the first Aussie to win a World Karting Championship since James in 1997. So well done, Ben George.
Just thinking about the tyres, they probably changed tyres when they came in and repaired the damage, so it might be a question of plucking your better set off and saving them for a rainy day. And they might put the old scruffier ones back on. One of the cars, I didn't pick up the number, is going to be penalised for being off the edge of the road at exit turn 4.
Noticed a few of them creeping out there.
Yeah, actually Lee Holdsworth it is. It's just a bad sportsmanship flag he's going to get, not a black flag. It's just a warning, don't keep driving out there. So I think probably what they're doing is shuffling tyres on Rick's car to make sure they've got a better choice of tyres for race 3. Put the scruffy ones on, get him to the end, and keep anything that looks vaguely decent for race 3.
Neil has spent the last probably 5 to 10 laps in the FPR garage behind Phil Keed, watching the way he monitors the data that's coming in from the car and coaching Jason Bright with brake bias as that fuel burns off in that car. Obviously Tander just pulling that gap a little by little on that car. David Richards looking over their shoulders. They're really analysing the brake bias and the wheel speeds and the steering angle to see if he's got understeer or oversteer. Really going through this right now to obviously try and make some improvements for race 3.
They're very particular about their brake temperature numbers, and Phil encourages him to make little adjustments either front or rear. He actually just a couple of laps ago asked him to sneak it forward on the front brake bias. Burning around about 1.8 litres of fuel per lap, so the car balance changes pretty substantially from lap to lap. Starting out with quite a decent load of fuel, as the boys pointed out at the beginning of the race. Gee, the times have continued to drop away. 5.7 seconds now is the margin between Garth Tander and Jason Bright, so all Garth needs to do now is basically stroll home. 2 FPR cars in second and third.
No one's got an answer for Garth Tander though. Super impressive. And look at the margin here. That's what 5.7 seconds looks like. It may have grown over this past lap. Andrew Jones in the middle, of course, and not racing with these guys. He's had a frustrating weekend, has Andrew. Just wrong place, wrong time as well. Caught up in an accident with his Uncle Brad yesterday, as we showed you earlier. There through goes Winterbottom. Here's Todd Kelly.
He's fourth. Another big gap. Almost similar gaps back to everybody. This is Craig Lowndes next, although Rick's mixed up in it. Of course, he's a couple of laps down. And Jamie's now getting quite close to the back of his teammate Craig. Then Murphy is 7th. Stephen Richards is 8th. Cam McConville 9th, there he is, and there's Jason Richards behind him. He looked racy, but he hasn't been able to do much about it. We thought that he may have put a move on a couple of laps ago. That hasn't materialised. Max Wilson is 11th, Dean Canto is 12th, then Stephen Johnson is 13th.
There you have it, your rundown of the top 13, but it's pretty steady going. Not too many passes being executed. They're running at their own respective paces. Murphy is the only one making any moves of late. He's up to 7th. Can he catch Whincup for 6th? We'll find out. We welcome you back to the closing laps of race 2, round 12, the V8 Supercar Championship Series. This is the Desert 400 here in Bahrain, where the weather has been on our side. You expect warm temperatures, warm and dry, but we've had actually quite cool temperatures, a little bit of rain on several occasions this week. Most of us have been here for almost a week, and it's quite comfortable. It certainly would be a lot more humid and hot, but things good at the moment, and they're great for Garth Tander, who boasts a 7.1 second lead. It's bye-bye. He's run away, and his aim in the championship is to get on top of this man, Mark Winterbottom. Garth Tander wants 3rd place in the championship. His teammate is one of the favourites to win it, but it hasn't been his day. If you've just joined us, Rick Kelly has had a shocker. He was involved in an altercation with James Courtney on lap 1, turn 1. It wounded his car, and he spent some 4 laps in the pits for repair. Gee, that drive-through was costly for England Scaife, wasn't it? They just got buried in the pack. They're down in 20th and 21st, respectively.
Well, as a percentage of the lap time, the transit time to go through the lane is so high. It's 43, 44 odd seconds to get through there. in a lap time that's 80 odd seconds, 80 to 90 seconds. So it's a big proportion of it. So if you're not very far, if you're a few seconds behind the race leader and then you're called in to do that transit, you become quite vulnerable to being lapped, and that's what's happened there.
Wilson has been one of the quiet achievers of the weekend. He started 25th at the end of the first practice session, and he now runs 11th. That's a pretty good effort, and I'm pleased for Max that he's getting his year back on track, because after those couple of big shunts at Bathurst this year, he kind of went off the boil. But this weekend he's been a lot more consistent, a bit more heads up, and things going in his direction again. For Bargwanna, it's been a shocker. Started very promising, but he's been in the wrong place at the wrong time.
8 seconds is the margin now. Garth Tander to Jason Bright. 1 minute 27.1 for Garth Tander on the last lap, and 1 minute 27.5 for Jason Bright. So he continues to drift, and in fact it's now out to just on 8.5 seconds, Tander to Bright. Winterbottom's actually got very good speed at the end, so his rear tyres are obviously still in reasonable shape. 26.6 on the last lap for Mark. I think it's too little too late to get to Jason Bright. But 27.3 for Todd Kelly, 27.2 Craig Lowndes, 27.5 for Jamie Whincup, and Max just doing a little helmet adjustment there, probably got a bit of sweat in his eyes as well.
Can't remember if we've actually mentioned this or not, but it has been confirmed in recent times that Wilson and Bargwanna will fill the driving duties at WPS Racing in 2007, so that's good for the boys to have their contracts renewed at least for another year.
Phil Key just doing some sums with Jason Bright and making some adjustments to that car. About 3 laps ago, he said to Jason, bring that bar back off on that car, obviously looking for some drive and make those rear tyres work, and his lap times have dropped away. They didn't improve at all, so they've gone back to where they were and see if he can equalise. They're just trying to find that balance of the car and where they need to be for race 3.
Yes, they're playing with the front and rear anti-roll bars in the cockpit, which just give them a little bit of micro adjustment on the car, change the way it's behaving and how it's using its tyres. So they'll constantly play with that together with the brake bias, which you can alter the percentage of front brake versus rear brake. When you play with the front and the rear bias control together with the front and the rear anti-roll bars, you can often really transform your car if you've got a problem, and they generally try and have enough. Andrew barely pulling up down there at 1. They generally have enough adjustment in the car to be able to affect quite substantial change in the car in case you hit a problem like they're hitting here at the moment, where the rear grip is going away in leaps and bounds.
And did you notice that points graphic? The championship has closed right up. Craig Lowndes is back within striking distance of Rick Kelly, heading into the 3rd and final race of the day. And the existing point structure has come under various criticism over the years. It will be amended for 2007. They're going to a different format, but it makes you giggle, doesn't it? Because Garth Tander is about to claim his 7th victory of the year, and his teammate Rick Kelly's only had 1, and Rick is the championship leader. One word comes to mind, though. It's consistency that rewards you under this point structure, as we saw last year with Russell Ingall, who in fact only won 2 races last year. Here's Lowndes and Whincup.
Yeah, Jamie's caught right up onto the back now of Craig. Clearly is not going to take a position off him at the moment, but he's really been staggering in the last couple of laps, Craig. 9 seconds is the margin now. Garth Tander to Jason Bright.
Need to get to Team Better Electrical in between these 2 races just quickly to find out. I haven't spotted Ludo Lacroix this weekend, who is Jamie Whincup's regular race engineer. We'll find out where Ludo is as we wind down this 2nd race. Tander with almost a 10-second lead over Jason Bright. They're all square for the points for the round if Tander stays where he is and wins this one on 210 points. So who wins race 3 will win the round between those guys.
Mark Skaife and Russell Ingall remain down the order in 20th and 21st for those that are interested in their progress after they had respective drive-throughs. James Courtney recovered from the back of the field to be in 24th. Just goes to show you can have a good car, good driver, and if you end up at the other end of the queue, there's not much you can do. And Rick Kelly, for his trouble today, down in 28th. They came back in and put that other set of tyres on a few laps back. For the weekend, he's still showing 114 points against his name. But this just tips the scales now, because you just know, regardless of how good he may be or how strong his car may be, in race number 3 he'll start right at the back of the pack, and that's going to murder his overall points scenario this weekend in Bahrain. So that sets up something interesting for us at Phillip Island.
by the end of race 3, Craig Lowndes could very well have the lead of the championship back. For the first time in the history of this championship, in 2006, we have had 5 different championship leaders. As we bring it home on the final lap, Jamie Whincup, of course, led the championship after Adelaide. Ingle had his turn at the top. This man on screen, Garth Tander, did. So too Lowndes and Kelly, and it's on here between Johnson and Wilson. Stephen Johnson, keep in mind, has come from pit lane and the back of the pack to now be fighting for 11th position. That's a mighty drive. Squeezing, gets forceful, got it.
He may well have used his better set of tyres for this race too, because he's got really obviously different pace to everybody else. Doesn't matter how you get a result. Of course, you get a result, you're driving well, the car's going well, but he's got lots of pace at the moment compared to several others around him.
So from 31st to 11th. Well done. Meanwhile, we go up the front. He's bringing it home, Garth Tander. What a superb drive. So smooth, so fast, so clean. 11.2 seconds. He's out in front. He has left them for dead. So while his teammate and championship leader suffered some adversity that may jeopardise his chances at winning this championship, it's another glory moment for Garth Tander. He draws level with Mark Scaife, 7 wins in the 2006 championship, and he grabs more points and gets closer to Mark Winterbottom. Well done, Garth Tander. He wins in Bahrain. Last time it was a celebrity race. This time it's for real in the V8 Supercar Championship Series.
And we'll be laughing.
And the words from Robbie Crawford.
Fantastic, guys. Really great job.
Tyre life's awesome from Tander. Robbie Crawford saying, just let's repeat it, and we're laughing. They'll win another round. Todd Kelly comes home in 4th place behind Brighton Winterbottom. And then Craig Lowndes will sail on home for a top 5 result. And as he just crosses ahead of his teammate Jamie Whincup, it's valuable points for Lowndes. So when it all looked to be slipping away, and Darrell spoke with him prior to this race, he said, we're just going to keep our heads up, be alert, be sensible, and we'll grab those points. That's exactly what has happened for Rick Kelly. It has slipped away. It's tight in the championship as we head into the 3rd and final race here in Bahrain. And the weekend is levelled at 1 win apiece. 1 for Bright, 1 for Tander. And the fight continues into race 3. Boy, an extra 10 laps shook them out, didn't it?
Yeah, we talked about it at the top of the show, obviously, that it was going to be something that they were needing to manage very, very carefully. They struggled yesterday with 27 laps, so the extra 10 were always going to hurt. And I'm only guessing, but I'm imagining that the tyre sets they use for this race too would be their cleanest dirty shirts, so they had to try and stretch the most out of them, and they'll keep a better set of tyres for race number 3. But this place is proving to be awesomely difficult on tyres all round. Look at that margin, 12 seconds. Garth Tander, Jason Bright, Mark Winterbottom, what a tremendous recovery from him so far this weekend. Position 3, Todd Kelly in 4. Craig Lowndes, a big bunch of points. He's got 173 of them against his name for the weekend. Rick Kelly, by contrast, 114.